إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه وبركاته عليه. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء. الحمد لله. ونعدكم ووسعوا بارك. واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد فإن خير الكلام كلام الله جل في العلا وأحسن هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. We continue 6:58 p.m. November the 15th, or Friday, November the 15th, the year 2019, which agrees on the Hijri calendar, as we're still in the month of Rabi' al-Awwal. Rather, it's the 19th night of Rabi' al-Awwal, the year 1441, after the Hijrah of Mustafa alayhi salatu wassalam. As we concluded the chapters that are pertaining to magic, and all the, if you'll find the subtopics that are included with this subject, such as what comes in the affairs of the Kuhan, or those who predict, or those who claim to have knowledge of the unseen, or anything similar to them, from fortune tellers, soothsayers, palm readers, crystal ball readers, cup readers, and all the different types of people or ways or methods that people utilized to attain some type of knowledge of the unseen as they claim. As all of that was connected with magic. All of that likewise is a subtopic to the chapter that preceded in regards to those who practice magic. Then we concluded the chapter what they call Nushrah. As Nushrah, as we talked about last class, is Hallu Sihr, Hallu Sihri, Anil Mashur. It's also connected with magic. The next topic, as we covered, and we finalized the explanation of it, we said what comes in the affair what they call Nushrah. As we said that the meaning of Nushrah is the removal of magic with another spell or some other magic. We said the cure for magic by utilizing some other magic from another individual. We said that this is impermissible, as what Ibn al-Qayyim had mentioned. As you'll find that Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah al-Alama, we talked about last class that he summarized and gave the concise, correct position in this matter we've been discussing. And he said what is permissible and what is not. And he broke down the different types of nushrah. As he said in the first one, and we'll just read it quickly so we can start the next chapter. It says, one is hallun bisihrin bimithleh, or hallu bisihrin mithleh. Removing magic with magic similar to it. Removing magic with magic similar to it. We said, is this permissible? We said no. It's not permissible for one if he was afflicted or tested with magic. May Allah guard us and protect us from being tested with magic. that he said the removal of magic with magic similar to it is impermissible, as we'll talk about inshallah. But he said that that's the first type. The first type is حل بسحر بمثله. It says وهو الذي من عمل الشيطان, and that is from the acts of shaitan. That is from the acts of shaitan. It says وعليه يحمل قول الحسن, and upon that the statement of Hasan is applied. The statement of Hasan al-Basri, Sabah al-Hasan al-Basri rahimahullah. It says فيتقرب الناشر والمنتشر إلى الشيطان بما يحب فيبطل عمله عن المسحور. He says, for verily the one who's removing the magic and the one who's having it removed from, meaning the person who was brought to bring that type of spell or magic to remove some other magic, both of them, the individual doing the spell, meaning the one who's trying to remove it, of course, by that spell, and the one who's trying to be cured, both of them draw close to the shaitan with what he loves. So as a result of it, you'll find that the shaitan, what he does, he will remove temporarily what he's been tested by of magic. He will remove it. He will remove it from the one who's been afflicted, and as a result of it, they will continue in their what? In their practice of that magic. So you'll find that the shaitan will remove it temporarily, but in actuality, more than likely, he might come back and resume doing it in order for them to what? For both to still resort to these type of satanic methods in order to so-called remove this affliction or this sickness or this type of magic. So we said that this is what the shaitan does. He would temporarily remove it from the individual. He'll remove it. And after some period of time elapses, he'll go back to what? Beating down the person or hurting the individual or harming him again. So they can resort to those satanic methods or those polytheistic methods to remove it. And that's what usually happens for those who indulge in these type of matters. So it says the shaitan will what? So the shaitan, we remove it. So the person would be what? Cured, as it seems. What is apparent is that he's cured. That's what a person would think. But however, as like we said, after a period of time elapses, the shaitan will resume harming the individual. So the person who's been afflicted, and they'll bring that individual who so-called cured him to resorting to either polytheistic practices or satanic practices to move these type of what? These type of sicknesses. So that is what was impermissible. And that's what we mentioned last class in summary. It says, وَالثَّانِي is where's your book? Oh, he's bringing it in. He says, وَالثَّانِي, the second, the type of nushrah is بالرقية والتعوذات والأودية والدعوات المباحة فهذا جائز. And the second type of nushrah is by those legislated incantations from recitations of the Quran, such as at-Tawheed, from ayat of the Quran, either by the recitation of, for example, Surah Al-Ikhlas and the Mu'awwidhatayn, or some of the ayats in the Book of Allah, whether it be Surah Al-Fatiha, or the ayat in which you'll find the meaning of them, you'll find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed in regards to those who practiced magic during the time of Musa, and Allah ta'ala had nullified their magic by what Musa was sent with of the truth and revelation, and what Allah ta'ala gave Musa of those different types of ways in which magic was nullified by, such as what happened during the time of the Sahara, of those magicians, what happened between Musa and the magicians. And we know that Musa had thrown down the snake, and it nullified their falsehood, and it eradicated what they were practicing of magic. So a person could recite those ayat, or Surah Al-Fatiha, or Surah Al-Ikhlas with the Mu'awwidhatayn, such as Surah Al-Falaq and Surah Al-Nas, or he could read those different types of supplications that have been legislated and authenticated in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So that's what he's speaking about here. He says either by ruqyah, by the legislated incantations, or those ta'awudat from the Book of Allah and the authenticated sunnah of the Messenger of Allah, alayhi salatu wassalam. As we know, some of those supplication which one has memorized, and from those medicines that has been established by experience and by trial and error, that they truly do benefit. Likewise, is what is legislated, and it's a nushrah, it's a type of remedy for removal of magic, which is permissible. So that is what Ibn al-Qayyim mentioned here, which is what? Permissible. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? We also mentioned another point where we said, for the magician, if it was the person who actually did the spell, and if he was brought to the authorities, and the authorities would say to the individual, remove your magic. The authorities, or the person who's from the delegates of the ruler, such as the authorities, of course, if they were to now find the individual who truly cast the spell, then it would be said to him or her, and it's usually a female, in a lot of cases you'll find it's a female. That's why you'll find the ayat as regards to what we were talking about. You'll find that there's a lot of women who are involved in magic all over the world. For you'll find that it would be said to him or her, Fukka sihrak, remove your magic. The spell that you cast, stop it, remove it. But it have to be with what? The person specifically, the one who actually did the what? Did the spell. Him or herself, and that's it. For those who are another individual who's brought in order to remove the magic of another person, we said that that's impermissible. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? That's impermissible. It's not permissible to do that at all. طيب. You'll find that it says at the end of the chapter, فيه مسائل الأولى النهي عن النشرة. The first is the impermissibility of nushrah. We just explain what the meaning of nushrah is. الثانية الفرق بين المنهي عنه والمرخص فيه مما يزيل الإشكال. And the difference between what has been prohibited and what has been allowed. For what will remove the problem, or what person might be confused with. So that is the meaning of a nushrah. And you notice that all these chapters are connected with magic. All these chapters are pertaining or subtopics to what preceded in regards to sihr, in regards to magic. The next chapter, Ya Ma'ash al-Ikhwa, also is connected with magic. It is another topic that's connected. It says, Dabab ma ja'a fi at-tatayyur. The chapter which comes in at-tatayyur, which comes in the belief of evil omens, as the word tatayyur originally is pertaining to the birds. But the meaning of it is finding an evil omen by what is seen or heard or known, even though the word that is used is connected with the meaning of the birds. But what is intended is something general, more general than what? And what the title displays here. What is intended is something what? More broad or more general, not specifically to the birds. Even though what was used in this context was a type that is used for evil omens, which is the birds. And the reason why he brought the birds is because that was more common during the time of Jahiliyyah, before the advent of the messengership of the Prophet ﷺ. That was more common in their time, before Islam, that they used to utilize the birds for these type of matters or these type of practices. That the birds would be utilized. So the birds, even though what is intended in the title of the chapter, even though it says birds, but what is intended is more what? Is awsa'. It's more broad. It's more general. But the only reason why the word or the bird was used, because that was more frequently used in the time of the Arab in Jahiliyyah. So that's the reason why the bird was used, even though what is intended, which was more general. As we said that the word at-tatayyur extracted from the word tayr. It is extracted from the word bird. It's a derivative of the word a bird, tayr. And we know the plural of tayr is tuyur, which means birds. Like we said in last class, and the classes before that, we said that the people used to find things that will happen in their lives and it will have an impact on them based upon evil omens or good omens that they used to find with the birds, depending on what direction they were flying. And it was a known method which they used to use, where they used to have or gather the birds. They would either restrain them or release them. Restrain them in a certain way and release them. Then they would look to what direction they would fly, either the right or the left or to the front or the back. And depending on that, a person would either leave out the house or they will stay in the house, or they would now close their business, or they would open for business. And these type of matters will have some type of major impact upon their lives, either in a good way or evil way, dependent on how much their heart was connected with these affairs. Some of them will be so connected with it to the point, like we said, they would stay in their homes even for nights and days, all dependent on the direction or the belief in the birds of what direction they were flying would determine whether or not how a person would conduct in their normal daily affairs. These were from the affairs of Jahiliyyah, in which the Messenger of Allah ﷺ highly prohibited, and he would connected them with the affairs of polytheism. For the affair of the title, as it says, the prohibition of at-tatayyur, and it is a severe warning. You'll find that it says at-tatayyur, which is the masdar of the word tafa'al. You'll find that it's also that the word is used for at-tatayyur, as we'll talk about inshallah, of belief of evil omens by the birds, is another word what they call at-tiyara, which is the same meaning of at-tatayyur, meaning to believe in evil omens or evil omen by the birds. Well, and there's another word such as at-tiyara, with a fatha on top of the ya. Some of them yusakkinuhu بعض علماء اللغة يسكنونه. Some of them put a sukun on it and they just say it, for example, like this: at-tira, without the fatha on top of the ya. Some of them say at-tira, and some of them say at-tira, and they all mean the same thing. All of it means the same thing. That's where you'll find in its origin at-tatayyur. If you want to now bring a comprehensive meaning of what will cover until the meaning becomes what they call jami' mani', where the meaning is jami' and it's mani', it's comprehensive, and it brings everything of what is impermissible to gather all those affairs in one definition. Then we would say it like this: the meaning of at-tatayyur is at-tasha'um. At-tasha'um bimar'iyyin aw masmu'in aw ma'lum, is to believe in an evil omen or myth or superstition by either something that is seen or heard or known. Or something that is seen or heard or known. And that is not only restricted to what, everyone? It's not only restricted to the birds. That's restricted to the birds and other than the birds. So like we said, even though the word birds were used, but what was intended is what? Something that is more general. Even you'll find that Al-Ilm mention this the same thing that we're saying now. لأن الغالب أن اللغة أوسع من الاصطلاح لأن الاصطلاح يدخل على الألفاظ قيودا تخصها مثل الصلاة لغة الدعاء وفي الاصطلاح أخص من الدعاء وكذلك الزكاة وغيرها. So what is deemed to be an evil omen or bad omen by seen or heard or known? And we gave examples of this. For example, the birds. The birds, I think that's clear. Depending on what direction they fly in. Or something you'll find or deemed to be an evil omen, what will hold you back from carrying out something beneficial in your life, and it will send you back. Or it might even let you go forth in a certain affair, depending on it. Such as what is seen, I think is clear. It's clear for a lot of evil omens and superstitions or bad luck that people believe in. And there's so many of them, depending on from one nation to another, or one country or one land to another. Everyone has their own superstitions and myths and their beliefs that are baseless. And they are from the affairs of Jahiliyyah. For example, what is seen, for example, depending on the birds, if they fly in one direction to the right or the left, or for example, if one sees bird dookie or bird droppings on one's body, or one's face or one's head, some of them say that is the meaning of some type of good luck or some type of benefit that will be brought in your life if the bird droppings falls on your head or falls on your body. And like I said, there's so many superstitions and myths out there, they cannot be counted and enumerated. There's so many. Some of them say bird droppings is a sign of good or some type of benefit that's going to happen in your life. And all the different types that we mentioned in the previous classes. Doesn't matter, for example, one walks under the ladder, or if you look into a mirror and it cracks while you're in the midst of looking at it, or, for example, a black cat walking in front of you or crossing the road, or, for example, a black cat or a black dog, or other different types. There's so many. Or, for example, someone hitting you with a broom, and then you have to spit on it so it can prevent some evil from happening in your life. As you'll find that's some from the superstitions. So many. These are just examples, but they're not just restricted to what we mentioned. But it's more broader than that. All these are affairs that will hold you back from affair, or it might make you embark upon a certain affair based upon it. Well, what is seen is clear. What is something that's heard, as we talked about last class, such as something what is masmu', what is heard, such as, for example, what the people used to believe in during the time of the Arab, when they used to hear certain chirping of certain birds and their noises or the sounds they would make, it would determine whether or not that person will have a lucrative business for today or a profitable business, depending on what type of sounds he might have heard from certain animals, whether it be birds, or it be a dog, or even an owl. And that's something of another superstition that we'll talk about. That was something of another superstition that the people used to believe in, especially with the owl, O-W-L. Based upon the sounds they would make, what they would believe, for example, and I'm sure everyone probably might have heard of this, where they would believe that the owl would come over a person that would die or they died out of oppression, and they would come and make a certain noise over that person, and they would come and allow that person to take revenge or vengeance for the person who killed them unjustly. Or, for example, the owl, the spirit of the person who died is in the owl. All these different types of affairs are affairs of Jahiliyyah. They are baseless, and you'll find that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ came and he removed all these matters and these beliefs that are connected with the affairs of the unseen and some of the affairs of magic. We'll talk about inshallah in detail. So some of those affairs which are belief of certain matters to be bad omens or superstitions and myths based upon what one hears. It could be the chirping of the birds or the chirping or the noises that certain animals would make. That's what's done with what is heard, right, everyone? They used to deem one would be considered, or one would consider to have an evil omen based upon something that a person would say to them. They would say, for example, Ya Khusran. Or they would say, for example, Waylak, or Ya Kha'ib. Oh, woe, one who's destroyed. Oh, woe to the one who is in a state of loss. During the time of the Arab, if a person would make this type of dua against them or say that to them, they would stay in the house. They wouldn't go out and carry on with their daily affairs. Thinking that something now, as a result of them saying this to them, that something evil was going to afflict them. So they would what? Hold back and refrain from what they wanted to set out for, and then return back to their homes or their houses and just sit there. So all these matters were affairs of Jahiliyyah that the Messenger of Allah came and eradicated and removed them from the hearts of the people. So that's in regards to certain matters that are heard, either the noises of animals, or like we mentioned, when someone might say something to you. Say Ya Kha'ib or Ya Khusran. Or for example, they might say Ya Da'i', or one who's at loss, or the one who's destroyed, or the one who will lose. When they would make these type of supplications against the individual, they would turn back and not carry out, like we said, their daily affairs. So that's the second type, that's the examples of the second type of what is heard. Right, everyone? We have the third, for example, of something which is known, whether it be a time or a place. It doesn't matter. Something that's known. Makanan or zamanan. Something that is known, either in the time or the place. Finding evil omen based upon a certain time. For example, whatever superstition there are in certain countries and lands. For example, don't ever get married after 5 o'clock p.m. That's the indication that your marriage will not be successful. Or do not marry after 12 o'clock p.m. If you marry your wife or you marry someone after 12 o'clock p.m., then something evil might happen to you. Or your marriage will not be successful. And all the different types of beliefs of Jahiliyyah that they used to what? Believe. Or for example, as we talked about in the previous classes, during the time of the Arab, they used to say that the month before the month of Sha'ban, was a month of evil omens. And the Prophet ﷺ had married Aisha in Sha'ban to eradicate that belief. You'll find that during the time of the Arab, in Sha'ban, they used to have a lot of superstitions and beliefs, thinking that certain matters were going to take place if they did them specifically in the month of Sha'ban. Also in the month of Safar. Also in the month of Safar. Safar was another month they used to believe in a lot of superstitions and evil omens, especially in that month. And we'll talk about the hadith that's in your books that's going to come, where the Messenger of Allah said, La adwa, wa la tira, wa la hamma, wa la safar. It's going to come, inshallah. But the Prophet said, he said, there is no contagious disease. We'll talk about the meaning of that, because a person will say there's no contagious disease. What is the meaning of that? We'll talk about that in a minute. La adwa means there's no contagious disease, or there's no contagious sickness. We'll talk about the meaning of it. It's going to come, inshallah. And the Messenger of Allah said there's no tayyara. So notice the Messenger of Allah didn't say tatayyur. He used the other word that we just said. He said wala tayyara. Wala tayyara. Meaning that there's no evil omens that will affect anyone. There are no evil omens that will affect anyone. And then the Messenger of Allah said, wala hamma, wala safar. And we're going to talk about the meaning of hamma and safar. What's going to come. But the point of the matter is, notice he said, wala safar, wala safar. Why is he saying safar? Because it was a time during the times of the Arab and Jahiliyyah where they used to have a lot of superstitions and beliefs in that particular month, where they would abstain from certain affairs or certain acts because of those beliefs. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? طيب. So, it doesn't matter. So the belief of what they call at-tatayyur is based upon what a person believes of an evil omen, based upon what is either seen or heard or what is known, either zamanan or makanan, either the time or a place. Either the time or a place. It doesn't matter if it's a month or a certain time during the day or a certain time during the night or specific days out of a month or certain months or a specific year or a particular place. A particular place I think is known. For example, a person would say, if I was you to stay away from such and such bridge, for verily if you walk under that bridge, it's known that you will not have a prosperous life, or your lifespan might be shortened due to you passing over that bridge. Or if you marry at a certain specific place, your marriage will never be successful. It will end up in divorce or separation. Or it's known if you cross that bridge that maybe evil spirits will enter in your house. All these different types of affairs of jahiliyyah, in which the message of Allah came and eradicated. So we said, Ya ma'ash al-ikhwa, for example, under a bridge or a certain house, or a certain home. For all these are matters in which the message of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam came to clarify to the people that they negate Tawheed, that they negate the monotheism of Allah Ta'ala. Either negating it, where it can remove one from the fold of Islam completely if his heart is completely tied into that belief, without any type of connection with Allah. As we know, Allah is ultimately in control, but if one's heart is tied into it solely and exclusively, where he has this belief, then the affair can reach the level of nullifying one's Islam completely if his heart is completely connected with these affairs. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? If it's completely connected with these matters and these beliefs, if it's deep rooted in his heart without any type of connection with Allah Ta'ala, where it's totally disconnected with Rabbus Samawati wal Ard. If it's now the connection to the person where his reliance with Allah Ta'ala is totally cut, then like we said, then it can reach the level of Shirk al-Akbar. It could reach the level of major polytheism. If the person has the belief, for example, that the affair is connected with these type of affairs of jahiliyyah, and it's a belief that, like we said, it can be shirk, it's still shirk, regardless of how you look at it. Depending on how one's heart is connected with it, it could be either major polytheism or minor. But know for sure is what? It's still considered polytheism. It can remove one from the fold of Islam, like we said, if one is not careful. But these affairs are affairs of jahiliyyah, and they're all considered shirk. They're all considered polytheism. All of them are considered what? Polytheism. The Prophet ﷺ came in order to cut the people's hearts from these matters and connect the people's hearts totally with Allah. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who allows certain matters to take place of good and evil in this existence. And it's in the full control and power and domination of Allah ta'ala. So that's the first thing. You find that At-Tawheed yunafi At-Tawheed, that it contradicts and it negates monotheism from two aspects. Number one, the belief in bad omens cuts one's reliance upon Allah and one depending on Allah ta'ala. The second reason is that a person is connected with an affair that there's no reality to. That there's no reality to it. It's not real. It's just merely wahm. It's just mere of one's figment of one's imagination, if you want to say, for lack of better words, or wahm or takhyil. Wahm. Like some type of, if you want to say, deeming something to be real, but in actuality, it doesn't have any effect on you. There's no reality to it. So as for the person that now partakes in this matter, and I'll read quickly what Ibn Uthaymeen that he mentions in this regard, where he says, أن المتطير قطع توكله على الله واعتمد على غير الله. That the person who believes in these matters, he cuts his reliance upon Allah. واعتمد على غير الله. And he depends on other than Allah. That's number one. Number two, تعلق بأمر لا حقيقة له. He's connected with a matter there's no reality to. He's now connected with a matter that's no reality to. بل هو وهم وتخيل. فأي رابط بين هذا الأمر وبين ما يحصل له وهذا لا شك أنه يخل بالتوحيد. لأن التوحيد عبادة واستعانة. He said rather this is just mere false impressions, affairs that are baseless. He said, what's the connection of what takes place in your life of these matters that so-called have an effect on, and what takes place to you in your life? What's the connection? What's the connection? You go outside, let's just say you tripped on a shoe. A person would think, oh, that's bad luck. Something's going to happen in my life now. Khalas, I'm just going to stay in the house. What's the connection? Why is it these matters have so much of an impact? What's the connection of this matter to what's going to now take place in your life? No, he's saying here there isn't any connection. There isn't any. He's just saying it in order to reprimand a person. What's the connection? There isn't any. What's the reason? You walking under a ladder, something happened. Oh, under a ladder. What's the connection that walking under a ladder now has some type of impact over your life? There isn't any. Walking under a ladder, or walking under the mistletoe, or kissing under the mistletoe, or what have you. And all these matters in which you'll find, especially when the season comes, will clarify how Christmas is a season full of beliefs of polytheism. Just the mere belief of the Christmas tree was a polytheistic belief. A lot of people don't even realize that. Of the meaning of the word evergreen, the evergreen tree. Why is the evergreen tree utilized? Look it up. No, I'm just saying. No, I'm not saying. I'm not asking. It's kind of rhetorical. I'm just saying it. Look up the reason of why they use the evergreen tree. During the time, not right now. Look it up to the mistletoe, even the belief in old Saint Nick and Saint Nicholas, how the Santa Claus flying on a sled was initially from the belief in the Greek gods who used to fly in the air. And they made it into a man now that rides with reindeers on a type of sled that flies in the air, that knows what certain people are doing, where he's now taking on the attributes of rububiyyah, such as the belief that he knows when you're doing something, when you're asleep, when you're awake, to the end of it. And the actual belief of this comes based upon a polytheistic belief of the Greek gods, in which they extracted and they made old Saint Nick, and which you find in the history of it, and make the connection. Now they took that Greek god and molded him into Santa Claus. It was a Greek god, a so-called Greek god that they made. And as a result of it, the Christians started practicing it. And they blended it in and made it some certain so-called the spread of Christ Mass, Christmas. And also, you'll find that that holiday, when we have the time, we'll talk about some of the polytheistic beliefs of Christmas, because it's filled with it. From the belief of the mistletoe, from the belief of the Christmas tree, from Santa Claus to the end of it. All of it is contained and filled with polytheistic myths and beliefs and superstitions. You even find there is a group and a sect from the Christians who do not even practice these or partake in these affairs of holidays, because they say the exact same thing I'm saying now. They said these affairs are newly invented and they are filled with polytheistic beliefs and superstitions, and filled with affairs of polytheism. But at any rate, You'll find that we said that this is the first reason why at-tatayyur, or belief in evil omens, is impermissible, because it cuts one's reliance in Allah and him depending on Allah. His dependence upon Allah has now been cut, where he now depends on affairs that are truly do not have any reality to them. They're not real. They're baseless. They have no basis whatsoever. Just wahm. Affairs that you deem to be real or have some type of effect, in reality they don't have any effect or any impact. No. So that's the two reasons of what we just mentioned. So you'll find that al-tiyara is impermissible. And like we said, it negates the monotheism of Allah Ta'ala. And you'll find that the one who believes in these type of superstitions or beliefs, you'll find that they're of two types. The first one is a person and yuhjim ويستجيب لهذه الطيرة ويدع العمل وهذا من أعظم التطير والتشاؤم. He says you'll have the first type for the person who abstains. Abstain from what? And he'll answer the call of this omen or this belief, and he will leave off the action. You'll leave off the action. And he said that this is the greatest types of what? Belief in these affairs, in these omens or these superstitions. And the second is the one أن يمضي لكن في قلق ووهم وغم يخشى من تأثير هذا المتطير به وهذا أهون. He said then you have the second type of the person who will set out. They'll keep going in a certain beneficial matter that they're embarking upon. However, in the back of their mind, they may have some fear or some anxiety or some worries that they have or they fear because of the effect of this type of belief. He said, but this is of a less level. You understand, everyone? This is ahwan. This is less. But both of them are what? All of them are considered naqs, imperfection, and rendering one's monotheism incomplete. And it's harmful upon the servant. Rather, you'll find that Ahl Ilm say, انطلق إلى ما تريد بانشراح صدر وتيسير واعتماد على الله تبارك وتعالى ولا تسيء الظن بالله سبحانه جل في العلا. He said both of these affairs are considered rendering one's monotheism incomplete. And there's a harm upon the servant. He said rather, he says set out, intaliq, set out to what you want to embark upon with your chest being at ease. Your chest is open and at ease and comfortable. And reliance upon Allah. And do not have bad thoughts about Allah Ta'ala. And do not have your heart connected with any of these matters. As you'll find that there are people out there, due to their lack of knowledge, they still believe in these type of matters. And he'll let them have some type of effect on them in their lives. You'll find that from the Muslims. They have some type of effect on one's life. And these are from the affairs of Jahiliyyah that the Messenger of Allah came to remove. And from the affairs of polytheism and shirk. You'll find that Shaykh Abdurrahman ibn Hassan al-Shaykh that he mentioned in this regard, especially in his explanation, he says, وَلَمَّا كَانَتَ الطِّيَرَةِ مِنِ الشِّرْكِ الْمُنَافِي لِكَمَالِ التَّوْحِيدِ الْوَاجِبِ لِكَوْنِهَا مِنْ إِلْقَاءِ الشَّيْطَانِ وَتَخْوِيفِهِ ووسوسته ذكرها المصنف رحمه الله في كتاب التوحيد تحذيرا مما ينافي كمال التوحيد الواجب. He said that the belief in omens is from polytheism that negates the perfection of one's monotheism that is obligatory, because it's from the affairs in which shaitan cast in the servant to either instill fear or whispers. So the great Imam that he mentioned this in order to what? In order the people to gain insight and to warn them from what will now nullify the completeness of what is what? The obligatory complete tawheed which one is supposed to have. So that's number one. So you see in these affairs of which we're talking about, it's clear. You understand what I'm saying, everyone? As we try to make it clear as much as possible for everyone to understand. Because these are the matters that are very important, even if you do not know the Arabic language. It's more important that you have these affairs, and if you're able to gather between both, do both. But what is more important is that you start off perfecting and purifying your iman. And knowing what aqeedah and the tawheed of Allah Ta'ala is and what is shirk. Those affairs are incumbent upon you even if you do not know Arabic. These matters are binding upon you for the know. Rather, you'll find these affairs are from the daruriyat. The affairs that you need, that is considered, if you want to say, has reached the level of higher than food and drink. And higher than the state of something that's considered, if you want to say, for lack of better words, life-threatening situations. This is something that you have to hasten towards learning without any hesitation. As soon as a person embraces Islam, you have to hasten towards learning this. Have to. It's not something that's a haja. This is a darura. This is like an emergency. You have to learn the affairs of tawheed and shirk in an affair that's considered an emergency. A lot of people think, oh, it's just a tawheed, shirk, keep it moving. No. Tawheed and shirk, and learning what they are considered affairs that are daruri. They're considered almost like an emergency that you have to learn. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? A person will say, oh, I'll put it off, until I learn Arabic. You will? And I still know people to this day that know Arabic and are still ignorant of these affairs. The person that knows these affairs are better than the person that speaks Arabic fluently and they don't know these affairs. You understand, everyone? Tayyib. So now what did the great Imam, is everything that he brings after he lays down the principles or the title, he brings something of an evidence and proof from kitab and sunnah. So now he brings the story what happened with Musa. عليه وعلى نبينا أفضل الصلاة وتم التسليم. And he brings the ayah which is in Surah Al-A'raf. No, I was right. Surah Al-A'raf, where Allah Ta'ala says, ألا إنما طائرهم عند الله ولكن أكثرهم لا يعلمون. You'll find that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala talks about in Surah Al-A'raf that during the time of Musa, when he came, you'll find in the ayah where it says, speaking about what happened and took place between Bani Israel, you'll find during the time of Musa, when if something good will happen, even with the people of Fir'aun, that something good will happen, they will say that this is due to us. That is due to us. When تصيبهم حسنة يقولون هذه لنا هذه وإن تصيبهم سيئة يطيروا بموسى ومن معه. So it says in the first part of the ayah, something good will befall them. Some good will befall them. They were saying, this belongs to us. This is due to us. That we are the ones that are deserving of it. We're deserving of it. And we're the ones that actually earned this. But if something of evil was to befall them, listen to the ayah. يَطَيَّرُونَ بِمُوسَى وَمَن مَّعَهُ. It says, and if some evil would befall them, يَطَيَّرُونَ بِمُوسَى. They would ascribe that evil to Musa due to the fact that they would deem him to be an evil omen. You brought this evil on us. What happened and is taking place to us in this situation that we're in is due to you and your presence and what you came with. That's the reason why these evils or these trials or all this wickedness in our lives are taking place. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says in His book, refuting them and this type of belief and them blaming Musa, Allah Ta'ala says in this and rebuttaling their belief, He says, أَلَا إِنَّمَا طَائِرُهُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. He said, verily their ta'ir, their so-called evil omen is with Allah. We're going to explain in a minute. Once I have to explain, it will be clear. It says their ta'ir is with Allah ta'ala. However, the majority of them, they do not know. Meaning of the ayah is this, everyone. That if they're afflicted with something that took place, for example, whether it be of a drought, or what took place due of a famine, where their food, their crops dried up, or destruction came to their food, it wasn't because of Musa. Rather, it was due to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had preordained and destined. Because all these affairs takes place by Allah. So that's the meaning of the ayah. حَصَلَ بِقَضَاءِ اللَّهِ وَقَدَرِهِ وَبِسَبَبِ أَعْمَالِكُمُ السَّيِّئَةِ. That basically this took place due to the preordainment and destiny of Allah ta'ala, or because of your evil actions. And all of it is with Allah. And it's His predetermination and His destiny and what Allah allowed to happen to you. That's the meaning of the ayah. As you'll find out in what they say in this regard, this is what they say. They say, rather, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala freed Musa from their belief in what they ascribed to him of him being an evil omen. Or them trying to say that this evil happened due to you. You brought this on us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rebutted this batil, this falsehood and this belief by saying, وَلَكِنَّهُ مِنَ اللَّهِ, that what took place is from Allah. That He is the one for الَّذِي قَدَّرَهُ فهو الذي قدره ولا علاقة لموسى وقومه به بل إن الأمر يقتضي أن موسى وقومه سبب للبركة والخير ولكن هؤلاء والعياذ بالله يلبسون على الناس وعلى العوام ويوهمون الناس خلاف الواقع. However, you'll find that He said, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rebutted their belief, that everything that took place is from Allah, of what He predetermined and what He destined. And there's no connection with Musa and his people. They didn't do anything. Rather, the affair, what it necessitates, is that a Musa and his people are the reason for bringing good to you and bringing you blessing. However, these people, they switched it. Wal-iyadhu billah, and they deceived the people. And if you want to say that they threw the wolves over their eyes by trying to think it's the opposite. But in actuality, Musa and his people, and those who believed in them, were a reason, if they was to believe and follow their way, for bringing good to them and bringing barakah. But however, they reversed the affair until what? They believed it was the opposite. Similar to that, you'll find in what the Muslims say these days. You'll find that that Ahl Sunnah all over the dunya, of what the Muslims, of what they ascribe Ahl Sunnah, of them being upon affairs of batil, you'll find it's the opposite. That everything is happening in Ummah is because of you guys. You guys have caused destruction, or you have caused separation and division. In actuality, the Salafis and Ahl Sunnah, the people of the correct belief, are the ones who are truly bringing what? Rectification. But however, the people reverse the affair and say, you're the reason for what? For the state of the Ummah being in a state of turmoil. You're the reason. It's you guys that's bringing all the turmoil. You're dividing up the Muslims, you're dividing us all up. For all these affairs, you'll find it's still being what? Applied similar to these days and times. So the ayah says, if you look what happened with Musa, it says that they claim Musa to be an evil omen. But however, their omen or their ta'ir is with Allah. Meaning all of what takes place of good and evil is from Allah and by His qadr, biqadrillah or bi-iradatihi al-kawniyya. Al-qadariyya al-kawniyya. All of it took place and takes place in this existence by what He wants in this existence. All of it takes place by His what? By His domination and by His power and by His irada and what Allah wants. And we know so many ayats in the book of Allah that Allah Ta'ala clearly lays down the truth by what? By saying He allows evil to happen for a reason. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that in so many ayats, more than it could be counted and enumerated, to let you know that everything that takes place in this existence is by the permission of Allah, of what is of good and evil amongst the creation, not to what is ascribed to Allah. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? طيب. So that's the meaning of the first ayah. If you look in the first ayah of the meaning of Surah Al-A'raf, what does it mean, everyone? The meaning, the saying that they used to deem Musa to be an evil omen. يَطَّيَّرُونَ بِمُوسَى وَمَن مَعَهُ, and those who are with Musa. The meaning of the ayah is that their ta'ir, or their so-called belief, or their evil omen, and them deeming Musa to be an evil omen, in actuality, is with Allah. What did we say that the meaning of with Allah here? Meaning that all the affairs of good and evil is from Allah. That is by His permission and what He allows to happen due to some wisdom that we know, that He knows, tabarak wa ta'ala, we do not know. So if Allah allows a certain land or a certain drought or famine to take place, is due to the complete wisdom of Allah, in which Allah knows and we do not know. Allah allowed that to happen for a reason. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? طيب. So the next ayah, if you look at your books, everyone, it says, الآية الثانية قالوا طائركم معكم لئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون. This is an ayah. Then another ayah that it says, after they also ascribed the people, or certain people from the mu'mineen, and they were sent to a certain village, it says, وَضْرِبْ لَهُمْ مَثَلًا أَصْحَابَ الْقَرْيَةِ, the people of a village which they were sent to them. And when they came, a certain bad thing started to befall them due to their denial of the truth, when they started to reject it, the people in that particular village. As you know, you'll find that the people of the village, in that specific village, they started to ascribe that to those who came with the truth. That all these affairs started taking place when you came. You're the reason of why we're in the state that we're in now. Or all these disasters are taking place due to you. It's your fault. You brought these type of evil omens or this evil upon us. So they were blaming them, or the people of monotheism, the people of the truth, well, their so-called afflictions, that they're the reason. You'll find that they said in their rebuttal, when they was trying to say to them, listen to what they say. The people of the truth said, verily your ta'ir is with you. If it says in the ayah, قالوا طائركم معكم لئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون. Verily your ta'ir is with you. We'll talk about that in a minute. If you was to take heed, you will understand and comprehend correctly. Rather, due to you denying that, you are a people that are musrifun. You are a people that transgress the bounds. What is the meaning of the ayah? The meaning of the ayah is this: that they believe that the people of the truth were a bad omen. You the one that the cause of all this evil happening to us. And we do not see that you are people that will indicate us to what is correct or any good. Rather, you're indicating us and directing us to evil, what will be the reason of our destruction. That's what they're saying to the people of the truth. Understand? So the messengers had said to them in reply to this claim, rather your ta'ir, which you believe in us being evil omens, is with you. Is with you. If you would take heed, but due to the fact you do not, you are people that are musrifun. The meaning of the ayat is this. Well, this is one of the meanings you'll find Ahl Ilm say. That what is taking place of your ta'ir, you deem to be an evil omen, so called, is with you. Meaning, that is clinging to you. And what is taking place is because of your actions and because of what you've done. Because of your actions, you brought this upon yourself. And you are the cause of this. You yourselves are the cause of the afflictions. Is it clear what I'm saying so far? You're the reason, you're the cause of this because of your actions. طَائِرُكُمْ مَعَكُمْ. So that's one meaning. تَشَاءَمْنَا بِكُمْ وَإِنَّنَا لَا نَرَاكُمْ وَلَا نَرَى أَنَّكُمْ تَدُلُّونَ عَلَى الْخَيْرِ. To the end of it, I already mentioned that. So he said, مُصَاحِبٌ لَكُمْ فِيمَا يَحْسُلُ لَكُمْ فَإِنَّهُ مِنْكُمْ وَمِنْ أَعْمَالِكُمْ فَأَنْتُمُ السَّبَبْ فِي ذَلِكَ. That the reason of why this is taking place is taking place due to your actions. And you're the reason of why this is happening to you. So you'll find that in this first part, so now he's saying, that's the first meaning. So it's because of your actions. The other meaning is based upon the first ayah that we mentioned a couple of minutes ago. That we ascribe this to you. طيب, they said a rebuttal. Rather, your ta'id is with Allah. Rather, Allah is in full control. And Allah Ta'ala has full power. If you would have been rightly guided, then these affairs would not have taken place. So ultimately, it goes back to Allah Ta'ala. But because of your disobedience, and because of you turning away from the truth, and because of your actions, then these affairs have taken place. So you're the reason, but the affairs ultimately return back to Allah Ta'ala. And you're the reason of why this has taken place because of your actions. Is it clear or is it not clear? So that's the meaning of the ayah. Now what's the connection of these ayahs to the chapter? What's the connection? It's pertaining to what they call tiyara. The connection is this. During the time of the polytheists, they used to believe and ascribe that anything evil was ascribed to human beings and people. Right, everyone? It was ascribed to human beings and people. And they say that you're the reason of why these affairs or these afflictions or these disasters are taking place in our lives. It's because of you. When you came, it started happening. You're the reason because of our trials and tribulations we've been tested with. Ascribing this to the creation and not to Allah is the exact same thing in which the people believe in bad omens when they connected something to the creation by saying these affairs take place due to something of the creation. Whether it be people or birds, animals, superstitions, or even people like we just mentioned. Is it clear what I'm saying? Alhamdulillah. You'll find that they even say in this regard. They say, وَلَا مُنَافَةَ بَيْنَ هَذِهِ الْآيَةِ وَالَّتِي ذَكَرَهَا الْمُؤَلِّفُ قبلها لأن الأولى تدل على أن المقدر. The same thing we just mentioned. Alhamdulillah, as you see, it's clear. He said there's no connection with what we just mentioned from that ayah previously. ولا منافاة بين هذه الآية والتي ذكرها المؤلف قبلها. The same ayah that we mentioned in regards to what happened with Musa and the people of the village. He said there is no contradiction. He said the first indicates that what is predetermined for this affair, it is Allah Ta'ala who predetermined it and destined it. The second, in the ayah, you'll find the people of the village clarifies what was the cause and what was the meaning. So the first ayah preordained, it was connected with Allah. He's the one that what? Allowed it to happen by His permission. Bi'idnillah al-qadari al-kawni. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed to happen in this existence, whether it be what? Good or evil. The second is connected with the cause or the reason, which is what? The actions of the people. The disobedience. Ahsant. So what takes place, or trials and tribulations, or afflictions in the earth, is due to mankind's evil actions. Right, everyone? They're the cause. They're the cause, or they're the reason. Excuse me. I'm sorry, everyone. The reason. That they are the reason. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ultimately is the one that allows these affairs to what? to happen. Is it clear what I'm saying? So it says, وَهُوَ أَنَّهُ مِنْهُمْ فَهُمْ فِي الْحَقِيقَةِ طائره معهم أي الشؤم الحاصل عليهم معهم ملازم لهم لأن أعمالهم تستلزمه. That's crazy because I was just about to think about that ayah. He said that the so-called bad omen, that it took place against them. And it's clinging to them, ملازم لهم, clinging to them. Because their actions necessitated it, these afflictions. And that's due to the ayat which comes in Surah Ar-Rum, ayat number 41. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in His book that corruption has manifested in the lands and the sea due to what man has earned with his own hands. Meaning that they are the what? They are the reason. They are the reason. Their evil actions is what causes disasters to take place. And it's from Allah. What Allah allows to happen. Because it says in the ayah, Surah Ar-Rum, what does it say? لِيُذِيقَهُمْ إِيش بَعْضَ الَّذِي عَمِلُوا لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. He says, in order we make them taste some of their actions. Some of their actions. In order that they return to obedience and return to what is correct. What it means some? What does the meaning of some actions? The meaning of the ayat is this. That if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was to take mankind for all the actions they done, Allah would not leave anything on the earth. The punishment would eradicate everything. That's why it says in the ayah, مَا تَرَكَ عَلَيْهَا مِن دَابَّةٍ وَلَكِنْ يُؤَخِّرُهُمْ إِلَىٰ أَجْلٍ مُسَمًّى. If Allah took the people of what they done, of their actions, fully, a full recompense, Allah won't leave anything on the earth. However, He appoints them to an appointed term. To give them time. That maybe they'll wake up. Maybe they will what? Take heed. Maybe they will come back to what's correct and make tawbah. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? So if Allah did take and fully repaid everyone for what they done, fully, He wouldn't leave anything upon the earth. Nothing would be left. Everything would be what? Eradicated, decimated, done. Is it clear what I'm saying? That's why it says, لِيُذِيقَهُمْ بَعْضَ الَّذِي عَمِلُوا. In order we make them taste some of what they done. Some of what they did. That's why you see all these are things which are natural disasters. Or we won't say natural, alleviate the word natural. Disasters of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows to happen due to the fact that the actions of the disobedience of what? Mankind. So mankind is the sabab. They are the reason why these affairs have taken place. طيب. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this book that if they would have did the opposite, that would have been a reason for barakah. If they would embrace the truth and did what Allah had commanded them, and applied and implemented what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down, that would be the reason, that would be the sabab for the barakat of the heavens and the earth will be open for them. From the heavens and the earth. As we know the ayah, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says also in Surah Al-A'raf, وَلَوْ أَنَّ أَهْلَ الْقُرَىٰ آمَنُوا وَاتَّقَوْا لَفَتَحْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ بَرَكَاتٍ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَلَكِنْ كَذَّبُوا فَأَخَذْنَاهُمْ بِمَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-A'raf, which is also all these ayahs in Surah Al-A'raf, except the second. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-A'raf, ayah number 96. He says that the people of the village would have believed and feared Allah, upholding those boundaries and not transgressing the boundaries that Allah set. Listen to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. We would have opened for them all of the blessings of the heavens and the earth. However, they belied and rejected, and we took them due to what they have earned. So it could have been a reason for what? So Allah Ta'ala is saying here in this ayah, a lot of things would have taken place of different things that are matters of devastating or catastrophic things that we see taking place globally around the earth is due to what? Due to the actions of the people. And that if they did the opposite, it would have been a reason for what? For barakah opening up for them. Allah would have granted them what? What they wanted. A barakah for heavens, children, families, peace in the earth, walking about in the earth without worrying about your life being threatened or a bullet flying over your head at any given time. All these affairs are what? Due to what man has earned. They're the ones that brought this upon themselves. And if they would obey and they would have implemented and they would observe what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had sent down of revelation, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed the opposite to happen. It would have gave them blessing. طيب. The point of the matter, so we can now try to finalize everything so we can finish this, getting late. So these two ayats, you'll find that the great Imam Shaykh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab rahimahullah that he mentioned, is to let us know he utilized this as an evidence and proof to show the belief in bad omens. However, the ayats was blaming people for the bad omen. So it was blaming people. But however, in actuality, the meaning of the ayah is more broad and more general than just people. It goes back to beliefs, superstitions, and myths, or places, and it could be even pertaining to what? People. So if you want to add on to the meaning of a tatayur, we said what is what? Was deemed to be an evil omen, or what is what? What is seen, heard, or what is known, as far as places or time, and even people. And even people. Ashkhas. Ashkhas, or people. This is not permissible. That you are the omen, you're the one that this has happened. You are the one who's the reason why this is happening to me. You're the evil omen. You'll find that says in the ayah, which happened with Musa and the people of the village, and that's not the case. Even in the last part of the ayah, we'll mention, we'll stop here. I wanted to really get to the hadith of La Adwa. But we'll talk on the matter of fact, we'll talk a little bit about it, then we'll stop. As the last part of the ayah of the people of the village, as the great Imam used as the second dalil, the second evidence, it says, قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون. Notice it says in the ayah, if you would have took heed, if you will only take heed. أئن ذكرتم تطيرتم وعلى هذا فلا تصلها بما بعتها بل أنتم قوم مسرفون. That if you will only take heed, realize that we're not the reason for why this is happening to you. You understand? If you would take heed. But due to the fact that you do not grasp the reality of affairs, or grasp the reality of what's truly taking place correctly, you are people who are truly transgressing the bounds. He says, أي ما أصابكم ليس منهم بل هو من إسرافكم. What has afflicted you is due to you transgressing the bounds and you exceeding them. So your ta'ir, or your so-called omen, is against you. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? So that's the meaning of the ayah. بل إن ذكرتم. If you will only take heed correctly, but you don't, rather you are people that are exceeding the bounds. You understand the meaning of the ayah, everyone? طيب. So we touch on a little bit of the hadith and we'll stop here. Notice in the hadith of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لا عدوى. There's no transmitted disease, or there's no transmitted sickness, or there's no contagious sickness. There is no contagious sickness. Don't worry, I'm explaining. There's no contagious sickness. There's no belief in evil omens that are real. There's no evil omens that are real and that will affect you. That's the meaning of the hadith. Wala hamma, and we'll talk about it. The meaning of hamma. Hamma, one of the meanings that we'll talk about, inshallah, means like an owl. They used to utilize and they used to have superstitions in the owl. O-W-L, owl. And there's no evil omens or what evil will take place in the month of Safar. In the month of Safar. That we'll cover next class. But to start off, the meaning of la adwa, there's no contagious disease or sickness. What is the meaning of it? Meaning of it, just to start off, means la adwa yata'adda bi nafsihi wa la yata'atharu bi nafsihi bal yahsulu bi qada'i Allahi wa qadarihi. That's the meaning. There's no contagious disease that will be contracted by itself, or it affects by itself. Rather, it moves from one person to another by Allah's permission. That's the meaning. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? You'll find that Ibn Uthaymeen, and I remember this example about 5 years, maybe more than that, 5, 6 years ago. He said, how many people, I was listening to the recording years ago. He said, how many people do we know that will come in a room full of sick people? And you hear them coughing, sneezing, blowing their nose to the end of it. Walk in a room, walk out, nothing ever happened to them. Nothing. There are people, they'll mix with them, even sit with them, blowing their nose or wiping their hands, shaking their hands with them to the end of it. Nothing will never happen. This does happen. Or they've been in a room where a person might have a contagious disease, as they say, and they walk out, nothing ever happened to them. Am I right or wrong? It happens. And then you'll find opposite of that. They might contract, or they might be affected. So, but at the end of the day, and I'm going to bring what the great Imam Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar mentions in this regard, as the great Imam Muhammad Aman Jami even brings in this hadith. And as a matter of fact, I'll just bring it right now. I'll just stop. You'll find that, just to sum it up, Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar, it's not in here. I remember this information. This was a long time ago. I remember this. You'll find that the great Imam Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar that he mentioned and said, every time the abd, the servant's iman is strong and is connected with Allah, these affairs will have no effect on him. Sicknesses or what have you. If he's firmly believe in his إِذَا قَوِيَ إِيمَانَ الْعَبْدِ, his faith is strong. And he depends upon Allah, relies upon Allah, tabarak wa ta'ala, and he's obedient, of course, staying away from disobedience. And he has a strong belief in Allah Ta'ala, then of course these affairs, because he knows that ultimately these affairs are what? Is in the hands of Allah Ta'ala, or by Allah Ta'ala. So you would never find that individual, he's talking about a certain person. You know, if you're a person, people that that in certain rooms, that they get to a point where they're so anxious. No, I'm not going nowhere near there. I'm not going there. No. I'm not even walking by that person. The person who has strong iman will walk by and be like, who cares? It's going to either happen by Allah's permission or not. It's going to happen, ultimately. You just walk by and keep it moving. That it would not reach the level of where you're now so, what's the word? Paranoid. That's the word I'm looking for. Paranoia. You understand, everyone? That'd be raised to the level where it's exceeding the bounds. Even though one could take the reasons to protect yourself. So I'm not saying that, this is just a side joke. For example, a person spray Lysol with their bed, there's nothing wrong with that, okay, everyone? So I know everyone's saying, spray Lysol, and listen, I'm putting my trust in Allah, khalas. I'm laying in a bed that I know a person has been snotting and to the end of it. La. That's not the meaning. However, your heart should not be totally tied in with these affairs. Is it clear what I'm saying? Because how many times you might spray lice all over the bed and still get sick? Because it still happens by Allah's permission, ultimately. Even though you might take the what? The precautionary measures to protect yourself. But your heart should not be tied in with what? These affairs. Is it clear what I'm saying? And we'll stop there. So when you see there's no contagious disease or sickness, now you understand, everyone? But there's another, which we'll explain next class, inshallah. It's going to come. Tafadal. 96. 96. Oh, Surah Ar-Rum. Surah Ar-Rum, ayat number 41. Tafadal, Ahmed. It's in Surah Al-A'raf, and it's in the second. It's in Surah Al-A'raf, ayat number 96, and it's speaking about the people of the village in the second ayah. It's Surah Yasin, I'm sorry. Surah Yasin, ayah number 19. That's what the great Imam Sheikh Muhammad AbdurRazzaaq put in the chapter. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Was there anything that was fihi ishkal? Tafadal. Mm-hmm.
So then, let's just say, for instance, like the wife,
no, I'm saying, remember, keep in mind, keep in mind, I'm not saying don't take the measures, the precautionary measures. You can. If you don't want to keep one baby and one child, one another child, no problem. But don't think that ultimately the reliance is with Allah. We're going to talk about this, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. We're going to talk about all this is going to come. That the person who's been afflicted with what they call scabby mange, a sickness. Y'all ever seen the sickness of scabs? I even had scabby mange when I was little. When I was about 2 or 3, 4, I think I was 4 years old. I contracted scabs. It started growing on my body in a long part of my body. I had to get some medicine. It was crazy. I think I was 4 years old when I contracted it. It's just all these heavy scabs started forming on my body. That was when I was 4. They call that scabby mange or mange or something like that. Y'all ever heard of that sickness before? Like scabs start growing on your body. Scabs, actual scabs. And it gets nasty too. Huh? No, it's not eczema. Yeah, pus starts coming out. It's like scabs start actually forming on your skin. Like scabs. Yeah, like when you get a score at the store, it starts healing. The actual scab starts to grow in your skin. You understand? That's a hadith on that. Let's talk about it. It's going to come, inshallah. Don't worry. Anyway, the point I'm trying to mention here, the hadith says here, Prophet ﷺ said, flee from it just as you would flee from a lion, right? So they say, oh, Messenger of Allah. So the Messenger of Allah, it's in the narration here. It said, do we flee away from him? We flee away, of course. And it said, oh man, matter of fact, I wanted to read. Can I read it? Oh, this is going to come next class. At any rate, they said, he was clarifying and saying, okay, take the cautions, the precaution. But in the narration it says, man ajrab al-awwal. Due to the fact that the animal might have the sickness, but what was the animal that made him contract it? Where did he contract it from? Ultimately. To basically lay down that animal had been afflicted with that sickness, and he was never around another animal that was afflicted with it. The first that contracted it. It was never around another animal that had it. Just ultimately it happened by what? By Allah's permission. It took place. So it's as if the hadith was gathered between, okay, take the precautionary measures, but ultimately know that these affairs go back to Allah. Don't be fully connected with them. Don't take it to the bounds where you're getting paranoid. It's just everywhere you go, no. You understand what I'm saying? Also, we have the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, don't go to the land where there's a what? There's a plague. So that clearly shows you to take the what? You take the means to protect yourself. It's prohibited to go in the land of a plague where people have a plague, where millions are dying due to this plague that had broken out amongst the people. Such as the bubonic plague. What took place, as we know, if you looked in that was a tremendous ta'un. The bubonic plague killed millions of people all over for different countries. The bubonic plague was tremendous. And if you talk about the reasons for it, they talk about and discuss it why. It's real interesting if you read it. I read a little bit about it. But at any rate, If you know that these affairs take place, don't walk into that land, which lets you know that ultimately you're supposed to take the what? Precautionary measures. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't have your what? Your heart what? Connected with it. And if it happens, if the iman is strong and the Allah's permission, you won't be affected even if you're around these people who have what? Have these sicknesses. If you're in the land. But ultimately, the other ahadith brings narrations to show that you're allowed to take the precautionary measures. But just don't let it, you know how certain people, they exceed the limit, they're just real paranoid. Like, you understand? Everywhere they walking around, you understand? It exceeding the bounds of paranoia. No, tafadal.
So this ties into tawakkul, right?
Absolutely. Tafadal. It's tied in with tawakkul, but it's also keep in mind of the chapter. It's talking about evil omens. But the hadith is connected. Tafadal, sir. No, that's something different. No. There's just, I couldn't say that.
He gave an example to a child. He said, if you, to get them to understand, he said, you have the chair. You're going to sit in the chair. He said, you don't rely on the chair. You're trying to give them to understand that you're relying on the
Oh, he said when he's teaching a child? Oh, a lower example of how a child is used. Just bring me the example. Let me see it. Just bring it to me. Tafadal.
The first ayat where he's talking about the people of Musa. Does this fall into, belief in the qadr of Allah? We kind of talk about it in class where, before class, that if something befalls you as far as a calamity, it's either from the qadr of Allah to test you or from your evil actions.
It's gathered between both. That everything that takes place in this existence is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, good and evil, what Allah allows to happen. Even though we don't ascribe evil to Allah. We don't ascribe evil to Allah. That's not permissible. But we say that affairs in this existence happen by the permission of Allah, good and evil, both. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as they say, just as He preordained the musabbabat, the things that occur, He also had now created the asbab, the reasons of why they come as a result of it. Right? Exactly. 100% correct. Anything else? Just as even for marriage, people, when they seek a child, they want children, they seek the reason. The reason is what? Marriage. You want children. There's no one out there that's Maryam bint Imran. There's no one out there. There's no woman out there. You have to get married. One woman to get pregnant. She has to get married. As far as those contraceptives and operations, I'll talk about that later. Because there's real strict conditions if a woman wants to have what they call artificial insemination of the egg. There is details in that regard I'll talk about later. It's not now. Not now. But the origin is if a woman wants to get pregnant, what? She has to get married. She can't just expect something to fall out the sky. Khalas, I'm going to get pregnant. So now it's legislated as what? Marriage. Right, everyone? The nikah. However, person doesn't ultimately rely on what? The reason. How many women out there that get married? They don't get pregnant. You understand? So that's the reason why our hearts are tied in with Allah Ta'ala, even though we've been requested to set out to take the reasons for those affairs or those results to be actualized. Jayid, anything else? طيب وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك وأشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Bring me that.